I can see the outside. It's out the window over there. But this is a good spot for us today. So gather around. Welcome to Brain Tech Support Live. We will talk about brains. Sometimes. Maybe brains are just this thing, this appliance that maybe isn't always operating the way we want it to. However, what if we don't have to fix the appliance or change anything about it? Maybe we're one of those appliance companies, you bring in the appliance, and we're like, oh yeah, that's actually how it works. But here's how we can work with that. The brain can throw up anything. It can throw up all sorts of urges and fears and the pressure to do things. It can throw up distortions of reality, delusions, voices, violent, intrusive images, terrible, terrible feelings like the bottom falling out of life, and we can have those experiences. Taj, Marlos, Lisa, welcome. Grab a seat. We've got a couple chairs here. This is a little bit of like a sofa love seat deal happening over here. Grab a seat. How are your adventures going in life? What are things that you're working on building right now? Where are you taking yourselves? If I think about things I'm working on right now, I am exploring writing a novel, which I'm finding really exciting because one, it's a great opportunity to just be creative, which is so much fun. But also, I'm really just enjoying the fact that I can write it and that I can make space for that. Because, mental health, or say like struggling with my mental health, mental illness and the works was a huge barrier in the past when I wanted to write. And it's fantastic now to just be able to sit down and write and not have to go through all of the compulsions and the emotion fixing and the chasing right feelings and all of that stuff that in the past really, really made it difficult to do the things I want to do or just be creative. Mm-hmm. What kind of things are you all working on this week? One of the skills that has been coming up a lot lately that has helped me so much and that I've been exploring with other people lately is just noticing that often the brain is wrong. And it's great we work on accepting fears and stuff like that. But it's also so helpful to just notice often the brain is telling us things, telling us something is a problem, telling us something is painful or we'll get overwhelmed or we can't handle something or that something is threatening and the brain is just wrong. Of course, one of the areas where that comes up all the time is the brain telling us, we're not worthy of something or we're not good enough to do something. And it's so useful just to notice, hey, that's neat. Sure, I can accept that brain, but also just the brain's wrong. It's kind of like walking by somebody on the street and they tell us we're an alligator. We don't have to stop and argue with them and be like, well, I'm not an alligator. I'm a human. Like, here are 5 reasons why I'm a human. We can just recognize, oh, that's something that person said. Like, I don't have to win that argument. I can just go and live my life. Taj said, I've recently achieved some goals that I'm very proud of. Naturally, my brain has started to self-sabotage and send me thoughts and feelings of unworthiness. How have you dealt with this? Yeah, so part of it, like we were just talking about there, like part of it is like recognizing the brain's wrong. So, because we so often see worthiness or our value as something that's up for debate. And it's so useful to see it as inherent. But then one of the exercises that I often share around this is to do things that you feel unworthy of doing or undeserving of doing. One of them can even just be rest. Taking a moment to go and enjoy something and letting the brain know, I don't have to be chasing something right now to be valuable. Simply being is the most incredible, valuable thing we can do. And so often, though, that feels wrong. So it's about going and stealing that happiness. Marina said, how did you get started with writing? I think, so always, like, even as a kid, I would write stories and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know if there was like a particular point of starting to write. I always read books, and then I always liked to write. So I would, do like short story competitions and things like that when I was in like university, and I think high school too. Yeah, definitely high school too. And it was always something that I enjoyed. Like I really like books. Like when I was in undergrad, I studied literature. So it's always been, so that's also why it's always been something I've wanted to go and explore. So it's a really fun creative practice right now just to be writing a novel, but then it's also something I studied a lot, and it's great to just do it, to construct that kind of narrative that arcs over, 100 pages. Lisa, oh, you're on holiday. Congratulations. He said, I'm on holiday and I managed to do so many things that I value compared to the past. I'm actually celebrating my progress for once too. Oh, congratulations. Right, you put in all of the work on exploring those difficult experiences and bringing in practices like celebrating yourself. So enjoy that. Yeah, enjoy some time. Like that's a great demonstration right there of what we were just talking about with rest and being. Enjoy taking some time on holiday simply to be, and just see that's enough. So yeah, congratulations. Zep, you said, can I ask, how can I stop my brain from making imaginary discussions? Also, how can I stop being sensitive or annoyed about what people say? So with imaginary discussions, help me to see that's not something the brain does. That's something I engage with. So sure, the brain can throw up like, oh, what if this person said this? That's fine. Like that's a thing the brain can do. It's often going to be like, oh, remember if this person said this, or like, oh, what if they had said that? You should have said this. But we don't have to engage with it. Us engaging with it, like me starting to have the conversation, be like, yeah, they shouldn't have said that, or oh, well, if they said that, then I would say this, and like, well, I would tell them this, and I would tell them that. That's all me. Like that's 100% a me compulsion, not the brain. So starting to see, yeah, you don't have to have imaginary discussions in your head. Something that really helped me was seeing that I would also have imaginary discussions in my head that I liked, and it was actually me having those discussions that I liked, or having discussions basically about like, what am I going to eat for dinner? Like I've got to get the grocery list right, etc. That was the same thing. Right? It doesn't matter if the imaginary discussions are about things we dislike or we like. So something that I like to look at is time spent in head. So even if we take a step away from imaginary discussions and just look at how much time are we spending in our head doing stuff. Because then, of course, if we practice that a lot, then the brain is going to want to do it more. And we're going to get good at it, and it's going to seem very automatic. So essentially, when you start to cut out this kind of ruminating, it's like getting bad at a sport. We spent years, decades becoming professional ruminators. And then as we cut out ruminating, it's like learning how to cut out a reflex. It's like learning how to go from being a volleyball player to like a soccer football player. So all of a sudden we're not going to use our hands anymore. But often the ball is going to be coming at us. And instead of heading the ball, we're going to like put up our hands to set it. And we got to go, oh yeah, that was the old game. In this new game, I don't use my hands. I don't do that ruminating. Yeah, and so also having that kindness and understanding that you're unlearning a reflex and learning a new skill. Lisa said, would having a success journal be a good idea? I think I might develop a practice of writing down my success every evening. What I encourage people though is to keep success close. So for example, I was very successful today because I ate breakfast. and my mental health practice and my success goals in life are just to eat breakfast. So I mean I could write about breakfast, and I would enjoy that actually very much. I do write about breakfast a lot, but I wouldn't get to. It wouldn't have to be about like, oh, I've got to go do this perfect thing, or I've got to go fix something. Like it can really help to, and it could be quite powerful to say like, hey, this is the success journal. Oh, isn't it amazing that you're successful every day? And so really making it something where we can celebrate success. And I think sometimes we think of like a comment that people often bring up to that is like, oh, but then if I can just be successful today, I won't, go and achieve big goals or something like that. And I find it's actually the opposite. Because if we're successful today, then we get to spend that success tomorrow. So we're coming at each day from a place of like not only being whole, but having extra success that we can then invest in other activities, spend on things that we care about, and keep growing things. And so it can really help to see ourselves as consistently successful. Pom Pom Kitty, hello. I did. Uh, hey, Graham, it's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Sunny Pictures, I'm doing good, thank you. Simon, you said struggling with retroactive jealousy. I really want the skills to overcome this. So one thing I always recommend to people running into retroactive jealousy is that it is not the only problem. It may be the area where compulsions are troubling you the most. But if I was going to explore things around retroactive jealousy, the first thing I would ask somebody is like, what kind of things do you like to be certain about in life? What kind of things do you like to control? Because so often all the brain is doing is just being very logical. It's going, oh, like you really like being certain about this and this and this, and like you like controlling this. Oh, great. What about that uncertainty? And we're like, oh, I'm not a time traveler, so I can't go back and have certainty about the past. And then because we can't get that control and certainty we've been like going after in other areas of life, we find it very distressing. But to start working on it, I would look at other areas where you hunt for certainty and control and probably get it. And then that's why it becomes so difficult with something you can't get it on. Yeah, the six movement said, how do I deal with fear of STIs? Sex sends me into an OCD spiral of fears, and then I start ruminating for days and weeks. Any tips? So yeah, one of the things is, yeah, it's great to take care of our health. And so one of the things I always recommend to people around health anxiety, and you see it right there, is to not get caught up in doing compulsions that are for sure going to make your health worse out of a reaction to the fear of the possibility of an illness. So if we react to the fear of STIs by then doing all sorts of compulsions that fuel OCD, we are for sure doing something that's not good for our health. And so if we care about our health, then it's useful to recognize that. At the same time, so often the fear of STIs, not actually a health anxiety, we might be worried more about being judged by others, being seen as responsible for making a mistake, etc. If you dig into it, it might not have anything to do with health. Okay, so that's one element of it. The other element is to understand, yeah, there is risk in having sexual intercourse with people. You're going to be really well served by whether it's talking with a doctor or a professional that specializes in sexual health to understand, yeah, like what are the things that you can do in terms of wearing a condom, using protection, etc. After that, though, there is still going to be risk. And that's like the brain is always going to be able to find risks in any situation. And so, yeah, it's in many ways, like if somebody's struggling with OCD around this, I would suggest, yeah, you figure out what are the actions you're going to do that, probably a professional in sexual health can outline for you. And then it's about doing them. The brain is still going to throw up fears. But it's about seeing like, oh, okay, like here's, maybe there's somebody you're spending time with, a Scrabble buddy. You've been getting together, playing Scrabble a lot, and you're like, wow, I really like this person, and they really like me, and you've asked them for consent to explore more intimate forms of Scrabble, and they were like, yeah, and now you're going to embark on that intimate adventure together, which will, I'm sure, be much sexier than me smashing fingers together like that. And yeah, of course, it's natural. There's going to be uncertainty around it, and in fact, you'll often see the brain too taking the uncertainty from a relationship, which again, yeah, very difficult to control, and then it's going to place it somewhere else on something we can do a lot of checking around. Like suddenly we're Googling STIs when really the uncertainty we're reacting to is just, oh, does that other person like me? Where is this relationship going to go? Yeah, so whatever happens with your Scrabble buddies, be safe and have fun. Justin, hello to New Jersey. Rithvik said, I've started on a path of authenticity, and it meant doing less, reducing social interactions and so on. But I do feel like a loser and have difficult being authentic. Help. Yeah, Rithvik, I'm not sure. What are you asking for help with there? Oh, Naomi. Thank you. I appreciate the flower. Sony Pictures said, why do you stop making information videos? I mean, you used to do that a long time ago, 8 to 10 years, but now, yeah, I mean, I still make some videos occasionally, but I mean, I already made a lot of videos and I published a book, and what more information do you need? I think it's also, part of priorities. Like, say, for instance, yeah, right now I want to make space for writing a novel. Um, I'm always looking at what tools can I make that are going to have an impact and make recovery and better mental health more accessible to people. And so actually, like a lot of mental health topics come up in the book, and I know how much, myself and I see other people all the time, like on our Discord server, identify with characters, whether it's from books or movies. And yeah, characters can have a profound impact on how we learn ways of interacting with the world and navigating our brains. So this is still part of what I do, and it's an area I want to explore. My plan is to, return to more videos and courses in the future once the novel is done and sent off. And so yeah, there's always an element of looking at what's most important. Because yeah, I could spend all of my time doing all sorts of a million different things. So yeah, I look at all of the different things and I make choices about what's most important and what I want to give my time and energy to. Leah, it's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Tim said, is comparing yourself to previous partners in a relationship a compulsion? Yeah, like so we can even just take a step back from the question of a compulsion or not, just look at like, what do you want to spend your time and energy on? Like, is that useful to you? Pom Pom Kitty. Yeah, he said, how do we deal with people hating on you unnecessarily? I try my best to be nice to everyone, but some people just dislike you for no reason. Ah, like that, it's really common, right? It happens all the time now, especially in the ages of social media. I have people hate on me all the time for no discernible reason, or it's clear they think something, they've invented something in their heads that they're reacting to, and yeah, so part of it's making space for that. In the same way, if my brain threw up some kind of terrible, mean, intrusive thought, like just like I used to, one of the experiences I used to have if I was about to do something, like it could be start a project, but it could just be like if I was at the gym and I was going to go use a machine, I would just hear somebody being really critical of me, like, oh, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that, oh, you messed this up, whatever. And then often I wouldn't, because I'd be like, oh, like that feels bad, oh, there must be a reason. And yeah, it really helped just to see, yeah, like the brain does that, just hates on stuff, but also, yeah, you'll just experience people, animals in life that will be mean to you. And yeah, it's not great. So it's being able to give ourselves that compassion. Of course, yeah, we feel that, just like we remember those times when we were kids and we wanted to be liked and somebody didn't like us and like it really hurt. And so we give that compassion, but also understanding, yeah, like that's stuff that's in the environment. We pass a lot of things every day. We don't have to get it to like us. There's a chair sitting over there right now, and yeah, it hasn't said anything mean yet, but I can tell it doesn't like me. And that's okay. It's okay, chair. You cannot like me. Zep said, sometimes my brain comes up with ways I should help others, but I feel so annoyed and kind of sad when those come up, and I feel incredibly forced doing them. Yeah, well, yeah, what yeah, what are you finding difficult about choosing to give your time and energy to the things you want to give it to? Starman said, about halfway through your book and loving it so far. Thanks for reading. Said, I felt like I was being read for filth, even in the first few sentences, as it even pointed out things I hadn't considered to be a compulsion. I also recommended it to my therapist as another resource, and he was very open to taking a look. Oh, I'm glad you're finding it useful. And it is written. I just wrote it just about you, so I'm glad you finally got a copy. I've been waiting for a while, and yeah, thanks for sharing it with your therapist. Oh, Johanny, oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words. I'm glad these tools have been useful for you. At like in difficult, intense moments. Yeah. Oh yeah, Stormy. Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, you found the community to be so helpful too. Yeah, it's like you said there. It's useful finding these things at the start of a journey. That's totally the reason for making them. I mean, it's so we're still at a point where we don't have, I would say, the level of resources for yeah recovery and mental health and just building great mental fitness skills that we have around for physical fitness. Oh, bagel, bagel, bagel. Congratulations, though, on taking yourself on that drive and doing something difficult. MC Dano said, do you have any advice for folks who want to start doing meditation? Any particular apps? Yeah, any app that you would like. My favorite meditation app is the Plum Village app. Extra great because it's totally free. And I think what's important about it, because so many of the meditation apps, what I see happening with them is because they have to keep subscribers and users. But if you're building up in your meditation practice, just like with physical fitness, like you want to get to the point where you can go to the gym. You don't need an app to tell you what your workout should be. And the same with meditation. I mean, we're really, I would say, in a meditation practice, working up to doing it on our own, unguided. So The Plum Village app is great because I would say it understands that, and you'll quickly see there are much longer meditations in it because it comes from a Zen practice center. They have no interest in you needing to keep on the app. They're not trying to make some venture capitalist investor happy by being like, look, like we've kept all of our users. The Plum Village app would be, I'm sure, totally loving and happy to see you not need to use it anymore because you can just sit down and you've learned the practice. So that's where I'd start. Nicole said, I think I just had the realization that struggles I've had in relationships or relationship with myself don't need to happen. It's funny to see how thoughts about these important things seem like something to react to. Yeah, so much of it, if we take a step back and look at mental health and mental health struggles in general, is just about what we identify as important. Yeah, you think about any mental illness struggle, the brain's throwing up all sorts of stuff. And the brain could do that. But if it throws up stuff and we go, ooh, that's important, I've got to fix that, then problems can emerge. But simply the presence or absence of brain stuff, not a problem. Sir Omik said, do you have any concrete examples or changes to make to improve mental health? Sure, like even what we're just talking about there. So seeing what's important. So a great exercise I always give to people right at the start to like learn the basics. And at the same time, it's the exact same principles that carry on to the much more difficult stuff. It's about putting yourself in charge of what you do. So carrying your phone around and noticing the urge to check something on your phone, noticing the urge to like just pull out your phone to get rid of some bored feelings, whatever, right? The brain going, oh, you gotta check this, just get rid of this, or we're automatically pulling it out, etc., and choosing not to. Choosing to give your attention to something you want to give it to. So it's about learning how to not be a puppet to your brain, but you identify what's important. You get to choose what you give your time and energy to. So yeah, just starting to practice things like that in any way. Another exercise would be, this is something I had to work on a lot because I had all sorts of checking compulsions. But I'd say this is another way you can see that fundamental practice is to just go for a walk. Identify what you want to give your attention to. So like if you walk by a car window and you feel the urge to check your reflection, being able to say, no, I don't have to check my reflection. I want to give my attention to that amazing tree over there. Or you see somebody walk by and the brain's like, oh, you got to check if they looked at you. Like, did they like you? Or were they being mean to you? Like, what's it mean about how you look? Like, check. Take a look at their face right now. And again, choosing to give your attention to something you want to give it to. So anything like that, just building up the skill to notice the brain trying to push you around and you giving your attention to what you choose to give it to. Marlos, he said, I still, after 15 years, have an internet social media addiction. I use it as an escape from fear and hurt, bullying, and now I'm stuck in a loop of needing the dopamine hit of social media. I see how my addiction takes me away from friends and family, but it's not so easy to just stop. I find having to hand in my phone to my boyfriend is childish, and I almost have temper tantrums when I want to get my dopamine hits and FOMO strikes. Do you have any tips? Well, one of the things I would ask, is it something you want to change? So one, because any change we make is gonna feel really difficult. So and the brain is gonna wanna go back to the compulsion. So of course, if we cut it out, you're gonna feel all sorts of uncomfortable feelings. You're gonna feel the urges to go and do something, that you're gonna feel like you're missing out on something, right? We hate loss, etc. So if you wanna change it, it is going to involve wanting to have those experiences. Right? Just like if we say, oh, I wanna get strong. But then we go, oh, but I go in the gym and then I lift the weights and they hurt my hands and the muscles burn and then I'm hungry after and I can't get up from the sofa or the toilet. But if we want to build strength, then we've also got to want those difficult experiences. So that'll be part of it, saying, no, like this is something I want to explore. The other thing I always encourage people to do with social media that, because I find really helpful, is deciding what you want to give on it. And it doesn't mean that you have to, like, I don't know, start, a mental health channel and giving mental health tips, or like start a dance channel and teach people how to do special dances. Doesn't mean that. It could be that, oh, I want to use social media to connect with family, to connect with community around some hobbies I like. And then that gives you the thing that you want to use it for. And then also to say, okay, I'm on social media right now, but I'm not sharing anything with family. I'm not sharing anything with my community. I don't need to be here. And then we go and do something else. Also, and that reminds me of something else. When I first started working on cutting out compulsions around technology, I made sure I had something interesting to do offline. So I got a bunch of magazines that looked interesting, and I got like a new book from an author I really like, and I always had them with me. So if I felt that urge to be like, oh, I've got to go do whatever, picking up the book, picking up the magazine, just to show my brain I could choose something different. It didn't have to be work. Like, the book was enjoyable, the magazines just fluff, but it was just about showing my brain, hey, I can choose to do something different. So yeah, happy exploring. There's a lot of people that have been working on that on, like, you'll find them on the mental fitness Discord server. So it's also something you could ask about there. And Starman shared something here saying, one tip for me is to take small steps at first. Addictions are tough to break from, but the main thing is practice leaving your phone in a room without you for a moment. Yeah, it's so great at first to just start. I like to say, like, give yourself a week of putting the phone in different places away from you, and then starting to explore having it around you. Right. Said, I had such a good week. I went to do things I valued, but these last 2 days I've just been so tired and can't get myself moving. I've just been laying around and feeling bad about it. Whatever I say to myself, I can't seem to get through to myself. How do I break this cycle? Will it be an endless cycle of doing a week of value, commitment, and then a few days of regression again? I can't seem to stay committed or consistent. So one of the things to look at is just, how to describe this. So one of the things we always want to do with mental health is, like, have things be perfect. Like, oh, I'm gonna be on and never be off. Everything's gonna feel good and never feel bad. You had a great week, and then yeah, you had 2 days where you don't feel good. So one is like, that's like, why is that a problem? And so part of it will be making that okay. Just like if I went for a run and then I was like, oh, I've got to slow down here, and I started walking, it's not going to help me to be like, I should be running at the same speed at all times forever. That's impossible. It's so what's actually happening there when I slow down to walk is an opportunity to learn. Or what's happening there if you, like, are really consistent with a bunch of things for several days and then you crash, that's a great opportunity to learn. Because to look at two things. So one, are there unhelpful things that are throwing you off? But two, are you pushing yourself too much? And actually, if you want to have things be more consistent, well, what would it look like next week? To be like, okay, actually, I know that after like a week or so, it's going to be really difficult. But there are some things I want to keep doing. So how do you maybe lessen the load during the week so that you can keep it going more consistently? So like with the running example, maybe if I did start walking before I want to, maybe that means next time I actually want to run slower, at a slower pace leading up to that. And yeah, next time I'm going to practice carrying myself forward. But also I'll look at things like, oh, did I eat enough? In the running example, but that can apply to many other examples. Because yeah, maybe I just very practically don't have the fuel and supports to keep myself going. So again, it's not weird that I stopped. It's just this great opportunity to pause and be like, oh, that's so interesting that I stopped. And if I see it as a pattern, be like, oh, that's so interesting that I keep going for 7 days and then I crash for 2 days. Like, why is that? And if I want things to be different, okay, well, what can I change? Because it also probably means some of the things I think I'm doing that are good and necessary, well, they're also clearly leading to this crash. So how do I want to do those things differently? So yeah, it sounds like you have a great opportunity for exploring. Dreaming eternally. He said, hi, hello. I found your channel a couple weeks ago and it's helped me so much. Thank you for making these videos and explaining everything in a clear and practical way. Oh, I'm glad you've enjoyed them and found them, like helpful and practical. Like that's totally what they're there for. Yeah, so thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Julian, I'm good. Thanks for asking. Moro said, living in a new state has me missing my old friends, obsessing on them, not contacting me as much. How to not obsess as much on them reaching out first. My worth feels to depend on it. So yeah, part of it's useful for us to see things like that. And I find in those moments, so often what the brain is doing, we can get frustrated with it, but it really is just trying to help in the only way it knows how. And so often in what we find difficult or annoying or anxiety inducing, we also see things we really care about. So if I notice myself getting upset that people aren't reaching out to me, I notice that means, hey, I really care about people. What am I doing in the new place to build connection? What am I doing to articulate my needs to my old friends? And it might change how we do stuff. Like, for example, I'm very spread out from many of my friends. And so we don't have, even when we were often in the same city, we had like designated times where we were going to get together consistently. And so it was just, we'd articulated that, hey, like, oh yeah, we're really busy and we've got all this stuff going on. This is where we're going to get together every Sunday. And absolutely, people are going to have different things and they're not going to make it, but it's already set and we've articulated to each other, hey, yeah, like we want to stay connected. This is something that's challenging because of what's going on in our lives. And so now that we're all so separated, we set times to do like Zoom meetings and video calls. And so, yeah, finding ways to articulate what we want. Because, yeah, absolutely, though, we'd say like, oh, but it'll feel so good if somebody reaches out and I don't have to tell them. Sure, absolutely. But we like social connection. And there's nothing wrong at all with articulating our needs and finding ways to make that easy because everybody's super busy. Oh, the existential wolf. Oh, so you said, I've tried for years to overcome constant thoughts about existence and death, and nothing works. How do I finally overcome this and get my life back? Yeah, so it could really help to see that the trying to overcome thoughts is a great way to get stuck with them. And so even when you ask, like, how do I finally overcome this and get my life back? Haven't you seen yet? Like you've said, you have years of trying to overcome this and nothing works. Have you considered it yet that that is the problem? What if you didn't have to do that? And so when you say get my life back, yeah, I'd look at like thoughts can't take away our lives. Thoughts don't have tentacles or claws or fangs. I don't know, they don't even have flippers. Thoughts have none of that stuff. They can't do anything to us. What have you been doing to hand over your life to thoughts? Whatever that is, yeah, you don't have to do that. Zep said, how can I feel less sensitive when someone is judgmental or arrogant to me? So I find that actually us trying to be less sensitive again is the problem. It's like how can I be less I don't know, fleshy? I don't know what the word that would be if somebody stabs me. Like no, like if somebody stabs you, you're made of flesh. You're gonna get cut and bleed, and it's gonna be painful. And that's very human to be fleshy. is fleshy the right word? Somebody who's, like, hopefully there's some real writers here. They can fill in some different words for fleshy. We so often try to hate on human feelings and be rocks. This is, essentially why my book is called You Are Not a Rock. Because you are human, and as a fleshy human, you are sensitive. And so I find in those moments, we can notice that pain. And like I was mentioning earlier around relationships, it's an opportunity to see what we care about. Yeah, we can say, oh, that really hurts. Yeah, well, why does it hurt? What do I want to be building in my life? What do I want to be creating? And then we give our time and energy to that. Anne said, first off, well, you're welcome. I said, I am struggling trying to find out what I want to do in life. I've tried lists of pros and cons, research, etc., but I always end up depressed. Any help about where to start? So one of the things that can be useful to start with is just curiosity. Because for many of us, I think many of the people in the chat, first time being a human. I know, some of you probably, absolutely had previous lives as much cooler animals, but first time being a human. So we won't know what to do in life. Life is like this big wilderness, and we get to explore it now. We get to be curious about it and discover things in it. And so, we'll pick some directions and we'll try some things. But then we'll see if that takes us where we want to go. Because we may hear about something somebody else did, and we're like, oh, I want to do that. But actually, we're in different terrain. We have different experiences. We're in a different environment, and our journey to the same thing will be quite different. And so we may not enjoy that as much. So we try things, and we be curious. We can still identify some things we think we know we like, but then we explore. And it's about making it okay. There's so many opportunities to make course adjustments and changes in life. It's funny actually, I was talking earlier about writing a novel. In many ways, I had always thought about writing novels. So now I'm actually doing something that I'd thought about doing when I was, like a kid. But I've had so many different jobs and so many different experiences and journeys to get to that point. And all of them will really inform doing that thing that I want to do right now. But it is just a thing I'm exploring. And and we'll see. We'll make it, and then who knows what happens after that. I'm open to whatever I see in the wilderness as I climb up to that hill, but then who knows what's on the other side of that hill, and what I'll explore next. MC Dano said, any advice on cutting out compulsions? For instance, should I start with a few compulsions or just cut them all out at once? I would look at what can you do? It's a lot like physical fitness. And so, sometimes we'll be essentially cutting out a bunch of compulsions, but you don't probably go to the gym and think of it as necessarily cutting out compulsions. You'll probably focus it around what you want to build and what you want to grow and what you want to do. So I'd look at that first. What is it you want to grow and build? And that'll often show you, oh, okay, well, if I'm working on this, actually there's a couple of compulsions I'm going to cut out because now I'm giving my time and energy to this. In other situations, you'll see, there's this one compulsion I really struggle with. I'm going to give a week just to cutting out that. Instead of doing that, I'm going to choose to do this other thing. But I've noticed I struggle with it, so I want to get good at it. So it really depends on your skill and what you want to do instead. Narina, you said, I need to prepare some stuff for work and then write an email. However, I've been procrastinating for 5 hours. I'm really annoyed at myself now. How do I stop this procrastination sadness cycle? Oh, by doing the thing right now. You can report back to us. You can go and prepare the stuff for work and write the email. You could write the email just like how you just wrote that comment. And let us know. Yeah, you can do it right now. We'll all watch. We're all just gonna sit here and watch you write it. I'll keep talking, but just everybody else is watching you do it. Dreaming eternally. So do you have any advice on reframing values in a way that defines success by actions you can take rather than things that are out of your control? For example, I really want to value my friendships, but I've been feeling really anxious about being left out and feeling like my friends don't prioritize me. I know it'll help to try to make new friends, but I worry about bringing these anxieties, worries into new relationships. Yeah, so it's a great question to explore. And I would say even actually just having the question in mind is always so useful. Because throughout life, we're always going to run into situations, and it's so useful in that situation, like a new job, new relationships, new anything, a creative project, old things, whatever. How do I define success here by actions that I control? Because you know the brain is immediately going to be chasing after success metrics that you don't control. The brain loves to kick away power from us because then we have to chase it. So one of the things I like to look at with relationships and like friendships is starting to look at what I give. And it's about what you give to yourself and also what you give to others. For example, one of the exercises I did was looking at whether or not I was going to be seeing people during the week. So I said, look, it's really valuable to me to go and interact with other people, like in groups and stuff like that. And so, yes, sometimes I'll be invited out to things. But I made the commitment when I was working on this to say, okay, but if I am not already invited out to something, I am going to organize an event and invite people. And if people don't come, great. Perfect opportunity to work on that fear of being rejected, not being prioritized, etc. At the same time, as exploring something like that, I'm also looking at what I want to give to myself. So if I've been consistently inviting out people that don't come, that like don't want to do that, I'm not really giving something useful to myself. So also then I would look at, oh, okay, well, how do I also invite out people who yeah, do want to engage with me or do the same things I want to do or whatever. But then I make it about the action. So it's just like, am I going out to spend time with groups of people each week? And so, but also it doesn't matter. It's not about, I'm going to feel good about it. I'm going to feel connected. It's just, I invite people out if I'm not already going to a group event. Doesn't matter if it's good. Doesn't matter if it's right. Doesn't matter if it feels connected or anything. It's just like, am I watering the garden with social interaction? Oh, Jillian, enjoy not listening to your brain. Wonderland, you said dealing with intrusive thoughts. Do you think we should avoid them, or does that mean we repress them and they come back stronger? I'm stuck in this cycle. Oh, yes. What do you mean about avoiding them? Because it's key to remember, the intrusive thoughts are the distraction. The intrusive thoughts are like a random guy on the street saying to you, hey, you're an alligator. I'm not avoiding that if I continue on to the grocery store, because that's what I want to be doing. If I stop going to the grocery store to argue with the guy about me not being an alligator, that's the distraction. That's the avoidance. I'm avoiding life because I want to go and feel right and prove the intrusive thought wrong. So I'd always, whatever you're looking at with intrusive thoughts, I'd always start from the focus being on what do you want to spend your time and energy on life. The way we confront intrusive thoughts is if an intrusive thought is getting in the way of something I want to do. So say I want to go buy groceries because I need to nourish myself with delicious food, but then the brain is throwing up these intrusive thoughts like, oh, that tomato is not right, or oh, that chocolate, you shouldn't, you're a bad person if you touch that, you don't deserve that. That's where I'm going to confront that intrusive thought by buying more chocolate. I'm going to do the thing I value, and I'm going to piss off the brain. So that's where we go after intrusive thoughts. But if there's somebody outside the grocery store yelling about me being an alligator, they're welcome to do that. I've got more important things to do, like buying chocolate. Justin, why is staying with the feeling so hard? It's so hard to do something like no fap because the urges are too strong not to choose it. And also the guilt afterwards kills. Yeah, I would explore. There's probably like more things going on there. Like I would, if somebody said they're doing no fap, I'd immediately like ask like why? What are you trying to get from that? It's very likely that the things somebody's chasing around something like that is going to create even more problems. MC Dano said, I went through the plateau phase and thought I was better now. Fell down the cliff, and now I feel it's impossible to get over the cliff and finally walk away. Any advice? Part of it can be setting aside like the cliff. Because if we're like, say we're out hiking and we're just constantly looking at the top of the mountain and be like, oh, it's so far away. Oh, it still seems far away. Oh, I'm never gonna get there. And so we're always looking at it as if like we're lacking something. Like I'm not on the mountaintop. Like, oh, I shouldn't be here. It's so useful to enjoy where we're at. Even if we hate the place we're at, it's gonna be so useful to enjoy that. Because again, like this idea of keeping success close, it's so important not to make success the mountaintop. Success is the action I'm going to take right now. And so, yeah, if I'm on a cliff, I really want to enjoy putting my hand on that next hold. I really want to enjoy lifting myself up just a few inches. That's got to be success and enjoyment. And the natural result of that is that we do get to the top. And we're much happier when we get there. Lewis, hello. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. S said, what about physical issues that seem linked to OCD? Struggle used to be more puro, but now there's uncertainty as to how much this is OCD and how much this is a separate physical issue. Yeah, it's tough. So from that, I don't know exactly what you're talking about there. One of the reasons I don't find something like a term like puro helpful is that, yeah, it's never just mental compulsions. And so somebody is like just seeing it as totally mental, then it's very natural the brain will move to physical things. Because if we start to go, oh, it's just OCD or that's just my brain, I'm not going to listen to it, then 100% the brain is going to go to something physical and real. Because then we go, oh, but this was real and this is different and this is physical, and then we do compulsions. So it's much more useful to have the focus on cutting out the compulsions and spending that time and energy on things we want while having any thought or feeling. And feelings are emotional and physical. Oh, Ophiax, you're on a beach. Thank you for bringing us to the beach. Can you share, like, what do you see at the beach? What's happening at the beach? Tell us about the landscape so we can all enjoy the beach that we've come to today. Abhishek, you said how much time it takes to get rid of OCD by doing exposure and response therapy. So really, really key is that ERP is going to involve cutting out compulsions. It's not something you do to make as a ritual that's gonna get rid of OCD. And I think a lot of the times people approach it that way. Also, it's very possible to end up working with a professional that approaches it that way. It does happen. But to recognize, no, like, ERP is you, like, this week I'm cutting out this compulsion and it is done. So you can line up all of your compulsions if you want, if you're doing ERP in a hierarchy. And it's up to you. Like, how many weeks does that cover? How many weeks are you going to take to cut them all out? And then you'll know how long it'll take. Chieri 765 for R4E3. That is a unique name. He said, how to change subconscious beliefs that feed into things like phobias. I wouldn't be working on that. I would see that like anytime like someone's chasing something subconscious, that's just a recipe for like how are you going to do that? Where is that? I would look instead of that belief that like something subconscious feeds a phobia. I would look instead at like the actions you're doing around that fear, and making space. Like we don't have to get rid of the fear, but that's so often what's actually getting us stuck because we're like, oh, I can't do that because it makes me afraid. No, you can go do it, and you can be afraid. Session, I see your question there about struggling with ruminating. Well, or the comments you made, but then it just says, please help. Help is in all capitals. Yeah, what would help look like for you? MC Dano, you said, I wanted to buy one of your books. I appreciate that. I only have one book. It has different titles depending on the country that you're in. So it's going to be whichever one's accessible for you. So look at that, because it'll probably be the one that's cheaper, because you may be going on Amazon and they're showing you the different options, but probably one of those books is going to be imported, and it'll be more expensive. So go for the one that's most accessible. Kevin, I am in a space jail. Funny, the novel is set in space. Leah here mentioned, yeah, curiosity is key. I finally understand what you mean by this. Feels great to live, not to control and fix problems. This is relatively new to me in life, and it is so wonderful. Yeah, Leah, enjoy that. There just is something amazing about curiosity, because we can have these really difficult experiences. It doesn't mean we have to change them, but we can also just be curious about them. Yeah, it doesn't mean we have to like them or say they're good. It's like, yeah, that really sucks, but like, how does it suck? And like, how am I interacting with that? But then also really being able to enjoy things, I find too, is a wonderful part of curiosity. Because before I was always like, oh, well, something has to be like, I don't know, describe like important or necessary, or has to get me something. It has to help me go and prove something or be better at something, and so on. And no, just being able to be curious about something that just is, and like finding amazing enjoyment in that. And yeah, maybe it's not useful to me in any way, and that's fine. I can still be curious about it, or curious about an experience I'm having. So yeah, enjoy the continued curious exploration. OVX has told us about the beach, saying, I see many very happy and relaxed people on the beach. A breeze is blowing, and then there's like a sun and a smile. Oh, Starman is in the same situation, but Starman's beach is a bed. Also a wonderful, comfortable beach. Sally, yes, how to properly resist compulsions. So, like the thing I'd watch out for is like you don't have to do that properly. Even like wanting to get it proper is, probably one of the patterns to look at around compulsions, because we often we want to get things right, and then we don't get them right. So then we're afraid of doing these like wrong things. My coffee is delicious today. I haven't had very much coffee yet here in the space jail. So one of the things though that I look at with cutting out compulsions, this can sound contradictory, because yeah, it's super useful to cut out compulsions, but that it's actually about doing the things we want to be doing. So seeing that the compulsions, the way I describe it, is compulsions are like hitting myself in the face with a frying pan. So this morning when I made breakfast, because breakfast is amazing and I am successful for making breakfast, I did not hit myself in the face with a frying pan. But I did not do a lot of things. Like I didn't throw the stool through the window. I didn't smash a glass against my forehead. I didn't like roll around on the floor and make sheep noises. There's so many things I didn't do this morning. If I was doing those things, it's natural they would get in the way of making breakfast. I'd be like, oh, I didn't have breakfast today because I had to throw the stool through the window and smash a frying pan in my face and roll around on the ground and make sheep noises. And like, there's just so much to do. I couldn't get to breakfast. And so, yeah, if I was doing that, we'd say, okay, well, those are compulsions. We're going to cut them out. But the way we cut them out is by making breakfast. I just make breakfast because that's the thing I want to be doing instead of spending my time on all of that stuff that's not useful to me, that's not useful to the stool. The stool doesn't want to get thrown through the window. The window doesn't want a stool thrown through it. My nose doesn't want to get smashed in by a frying pan. So I'm going to do what's useful to me and useful to the furniture and kitchen utensils around me. Sachin, you said, so this on the rumination, you elaborated, you said, I mean that what type of practice should I do to overcome this ruminating habit and thinking about these thoughts again and again? So one of the things to look at is like it might not be a practice you're looking for. It might be the opposite. Right? Rumination is us spending lots of time and energy, controlling stuff, checking stuff, repeating stuff over and over again. And so it really helped me to see it more as an undoing. So that's like, if you look at the video, I'm on the weakness of recovery. So it talks about acceptance there. It talks about acceptance there. Me being in the video, I talk about acceptance there. And starting to recognize acceptance isn't a thing we do to something. So there I use the example of an apple. Because so often we're like, oh, like, how do I accept this apple? No. We're very good at accepting apples, accepting clouds, accepting sofas, etc. We don't do anything to it. So it really helped me to see that mindfulness is the opposite of rumination. So with rumination, I'm like judging things, checking on things, spending time and energy, like I'm doing things in my head to other things. Mindfulness is an undoing of all of that. It's an awareness of things as they are. It's me giving my attention to what I want to give it to without judgment. And so rumination very much relying on judging and labeling and attaching meanings to things. It's probably going to be more of a not doing a practice they're looking for. So one of the things I always suggest to people to start exploring not ruminating is to look at how we ruminate often about things we like. So we're often spinning the wheels up there around, like just filling time, imaginary conversations, grocery lists, whatever. All of that spinning the wheels in our heads. So starting to see, oh, I don't have to spend time in my head on that thing. That thing that we like to spend time on probably won't be threatening. And so that's why it's easier to start with something that's not threatening, because typically we're doing a lot of ruminating because, we are trying to protect ourselves from something or get something. So I'd start exploring that. I found meditation really helpful for learning how to do things differently up here. Because meditation was all about not doing things up there. Dreaming eternally. No, we haven't shared about the Discord, how to join the Discord. So I have to send you an invite link. So if you send me a message through Instagram Instagram or my website, there's a contact form there. Anything like that, just DM me on social media and then I'll send you the invite link. And then you can join, a really great group of people working on doing more of the things they want to do in life. Nicole, thank you so much for the donation. And at first I thought it was a rocket, but I think it's like a hippo with an office chair that's just wild, rolling around on the floor. Thank you so much for the support like the donation, but just in general, the support to the community and being here and sharing. Aurora said, can you explain a little bit about how DPDR is a compulsion? So for anybody that's not familiar, that's derealization and depersonalization. Although yeah, you said depersonalization and derealization, same thing. They are compulsions because they rely on us checking and judging feelings and wanting to control feelings, like wanting to chase right feelings. And so, yeah, you can even think of it, it's classic contamination OCD patterns but what we're judging is the feeling of being ourselves is the contamination. We're like, oh, this doesn't feel right. I should feel different. And then we end up doing lots of compulsions to either clean away the bad feeling or get the good feeling, the right feeling. And so what that locks us into, though, is just like with contamination compulsions, then we're constantly checking. We're on alert for anything that we feel could contaminate that feeling of realness or being ourselves. And then we're always doing more and more things to get the right feeling. But just like with contamination OCD, the more you chase that clean feeling, the more you're going to feel contaminated until you just feel contaminated all the time. Or in the case of depersonalization, derealization, you just feel depersonalized and unreal all of the time. So it's that checking and then chasing right feelings. So DPR, DP, DP and DR, it sounds like a band, is always connected to other compulsions. So there's actually, and I'm not going to list them out now because then some people may start checking for them, but they're always connected to a whole bunch of other compulsions around getting certainty and checking. But those other compulsions may have felt good or solvable for that person. So they've been doing all of that, checking and getting certainty, and now the brain has naturally leveled up to questioning whether you yourself are even real. It's useful to see it as just a natural outcome of that process. If we've committed to having right feelings and checking for those and getting rid of wrong feelings, we're pretty guaranteed to eventually end up at depersonalization and derealization. MC Dano. So actually, perfect example right here. So do you think there are big and small compulsions, or are they all the same? For instance, is constantly biting fingernails the same as ruminating about existence? Yeah, it's the same. So, and again, so I see it, I would approach it as like a continuum. Because if we were like, oh, my nail looks wrong, or it feels wrong, or it's just gonna feel right to bite it, the brain goes, oh yeah, we should feel right about things. Okay, how do you feel about existence? Are you real? Is this the right feeling? And so on. And it's seeing like they're not even different compulsions. We've just committed the brain to, hey, we've got to feel right about things. And so our nails were easy. And then the brain was like, oh yeah, you like that. You like it when you bite off that skin or you bite your nails or whatever. It feels good, right? We get it right. The brain's going, okay, then you're really gonna feel good when you get existence, right? And so it's just the natural continuation of what we've taught the brain. Mike, so it could help to approach compulsions differently, because I would see what you're describing there as a compulsion. Oh, and so Aurora, even you were explaining more about DPDR down below, and yeah, you can see something here that I was mentioning. So you said, my biggest struggle in recovery is dealing with DPDR while I'm driving. It's so hard to feel like I'm safe while feeling so disconnected and weird, but I value driving and I kind of have to. So that's safe. Like if you replace that with, if you said it like this, it's so hard to feel like I'm clean while feeling so contaminated. So yeah, if you're chasing that safe feeling, then the brain is gonna be like, well, yeah, like go fix this, and then you're really gonna feel safe. but then it just becomes needing to fix it more and get that feeling of safety more and more. But then we just always end up feeling unsafe. More said, I feel like a doormat at times. And when I set a boundary, I then feel bad. I may have pushed someone away. How do I stick to the boundary while feeling a lot of guilt and doubt? So one of the things to look at there, again, I don't know if you caught this earlier, we were talking about how in like pain, we can often see something we care about. So yeah, we care about other people, we're often afraid to hurt them. But we start to recognize that, oh, actually setting healthy boundaries is going to take care of me so that I can engage in relationships with other people. And so, yeah, learning how to set a boundary and then have the brain go, like, this means like you've hurt them and they're never going to be your friend. You're going to be alone forever. And it's being able to notice that, be like, yeah, like that would really hurt. I'd feel really bad. Uh, I can handle that. I'm going to take care of myself. And I know that this is best for building this relationship in a healthy way. Yeah. Because, yeah, absolutely. If somebody's like, you've got to light yourself on fire to keep me warm. When I say, ooh, I'm not going to set myself on fire for you. Yeah, maybe they'll be upset. But I'm going to trust them to, work on handling those painful emotions. Isabel, great point about the mug and the sheep noises. Hey, Tim, yeah, you said, I worry my partner's previous sexual partners were better than me. Is this something I just accept as a possibility? Yeah, and it's noticing, like, well, what do you care about there? What do you want to build? Uh, you want to give to your partner and support that relationship. So rather than spending time just like comparing and judging and thinking about former partners, which is not going to be useful to you when you're having intimate Scrabble time. What do you want to build in the relationship? Particularly around intimacy. That's something you can explore. It's something that you care about. Oh, Abhishek, you said, whenever I do ERP, I feel lots of anxiety. What do I do in that time to feel calm? No, like that's trying to calm down or like checking anxiety to see if it's going away. Like that is the compulsion. It'd be like saying like, oh, I go to the gym and I lift the weights, but then I get sweaty. So how do not get sweaty? No, like that, like hating on sweat, hating on anxiety, not going to be useful uh, for exploring the things you want to explore. Get sweaty, get anxiety. Mike, thank you for the donation. Oh, I really appreciate it. No, I'm glad you found these tools helpful over the years. Yeah, thanks for joining us and the support for the live today. I appreciate it. Sally said, I've checking and perfectionism OCD. And when obsessions of those types come, I lose control and just start worrying. Example, I feel like I have to have a perfect schedule in order to function. How do I resist them and not focus on the thoughts and instead focus on work? And I can't find the possible exposures to. So you just explained the exposure above. So yeah, it might help to like if you can grab a good book on ERP or ACT or because yeah, like you explained the perfect exercise right there. You said I feel like I have to have a perfect schedule. So like the exercise, like just a easy typical say ACT exercise would be to have a not perfect schedule and to give your time and energy to things you value. And then so cutting out those compulsions on the way to like need things to be perfect. So yeah, there'd be all sorts of exercises you could do around letting things be imperfect and then not spending all of that time on those compulsions to either like fix it and make it right or ruminating about why it's not perfect and so on. I just hit my camera up here in the space jail. Vlad, he said, I find it really hard to find any content on the internet about procrastination alongside OCD, where if you don't feel certain just right because you had an intrusive thought and didn't do a compulsion or did it in a way you don't feel right, you're holding yourself back from doing something that you wanted to do for a long time, uh, like a major change in your life because you're afraid that when you do that, I buy something you're going to use every day in the next few years. The event the intrusive thought was about will happen, and you think about it every time you use that item. Um, you'll think about the state of your OCD. So doing exposure like just do it, just buy it seems to be so impossible. Do you have any advice on overcoming it? Kind of just right, perfectionism, pure O. Okay, so one thing, yeah, that's just classic OCD. That's like a very, very common compulsion. So actually, and so not pure O at all. Like avoiding something in life, that's a very visible compulsion. Like literally our life is not in the direction we want to go in. Like that's, you can see that. That is not, yeah, it'll really help to ditch the idea of that being pure O. Like that is an external visible compulsion. Like we're literally not moving our body into the place where we want it to be. So yeah, totally typical OCD. So, but you can see how like the compulsions are bigger. Like that idea of like, oh, I've got to find somebody with this very exact, particular description of a compulsion, like procrastination alongside OCD. It's that focus on something very particular that always leads to people then not finding it. Because the compulsion there is trying to find something super, super, super narrow. When like what you're describing there is just the classic OCD compulsion, not doing something you want to do because something feels wrong. So the exercise is to do the things we want to do while having wrong thoughts and feelings. So yeah, and absolutely, the brain's going to use whatever fear it can think up. So if it's that fear, like, oh no, you're going to do this, and the thought's always going to be there, or you're always going to remember that this was tainted, right? Just classic contamination. Like, oh, this will always be contaminated. You've got to wait until it feels clean. So no, we want it to be contaminated. Be like, yeah, brain. Oh, you think starting, this project with that bad thought, and I'm going to think about that bad thought forever. Oh, I want to think about that bad thought forever. I'm going to take that bad thought, this big bad monster, to work every single day. Every single day I work on this project, I'm going to save an extra chair just for that nasty monster. I'm going to invite it to sit down there. Because yeah, the thing is, when we actually want to bring these experiences along, for whatever reason, they don't show up. But if we want to procrastinate and put them in charge of our lives, then we end up spending a lot of time with them. Josh said, how can I get through body fluid contamination OCD? So it's gonna be about cutting out the compulsions, but maybe like if you want it, like so the question I would ask, like what are you finding difficult about cutting out those compulsions? Yeah, Caroline, you said, I often get overwhelmed with feeling irresponsible if I don't try and solve a what if in my head. How do I sit with feeling bad and irresponsible for leaving the thought? So it's really common. It's one of the reasons I like to talk about having wrong feelings and like stealing happiness. Yeah, you're gonna go and do things, and the brain's gonna be telling you like you can't do that. You're committing a crime by going to live your life and not solving that thought first. And it's got to be about us like wanting to get away with it. Be like, yeah, brain, you're right. Like I should have solved that thought and I'm not. And then you go and do whatever you want to do. But that can be really difficult. So one of the things that's also I find useful to look at here is, yeah, what are we afraid of? Like actually, what's the consequence we're afraid of if we don't solve a what if and we just go and live our lives? Because then we see the thing to work on. Like, is it, we think, oh, if I just go, I go and start a relationship and I haven't solved this what if, something terrible is going to happen because of that what if and ruin the relationship. So actually, the fear is around losing that thing that we really want to build. And then what to work on there is not just like sitting with unfinished things, but with our fears around like losing a relationship or whatever it may be. So Aurora, see, following up on the DPDR, yeah, so it's I would go with the, like you said, stop checking to see if the feelings are there. Like, it's going to be that, but I would say it's very, very likely there are a lot of other checking and controlling, because it's not just going to be checking if the feelings are there. Like there's going to be a whole bunch of beliefs you must have that there is a right feeling, and so it is going to be exploring that kind of stuff. That idea, like, oh no, I should feel like things are real. I should have this particular feeling of being myself. So looking at those kinds of beliefs and desires, in addition to the judgments, right? When we're checking, we're like checking to judge something. So yeah, there's going to be because if we hold on to that belief, like I should feel real, and this is what feeling real feels like, then we'll like always be anxious about not feeling real. But that whole concept of needing to feel like who said that was a thing we had to have. Like why chase that? Now that you can see what chasing it leads to. Oh, Abhishek, thank you. You have a nice day too. Yeah, MC Dano, you said, I have a huge fear of marijuana because years ago I smoked weed and had a major panic attack, but I also don't value weed anymore to be part of my life. So how would I do ERP to get over that fear while also not exposing myself to it? So yeah, right, that's like why do you have to do anything with it? Like I bet I have a fear of being thrown in a snake pit. Probably. Like that seems like that'd be a really scary thing. I don't have to spend time getting over that. Yeah, why do you have to spend any time on that at all? Moral. Yeah, he said, when I reach out to friends, I feel OCD is is Trojan horsing its way in. And I truly value their response. But OCD uses their response to gain certainty they still like me. How to stop assuming people are mad at me when there are breaks in communication. So part of it is just like recognizing the brain is wrong, recognizing the brain really trying to protect us from stuff. So it's just trying to do its job. It is like a dog that barks. So you know now, every time there's a break in communication, your guard dog is going to start barking at it. Like this is a dangerous, bad thing. And so at first too, the guard dog barking, you're gonna go, whoa, this must be dangerous and bad. It's scary when the dog barks. But then starting to see, oh yeah, I get it. The dog always, sometimes it barks at real dangers, but like it also likes to bark at garbage cans. I don't know, it's scared of garbage cans. So being able to start seeing like, oh, okay, I get it. Like the brain sees this as danger. I now know it's not. But I understand why it cares. I understand why I care about this because I really care about my relationships and I want to be liked. And like, so it's about noticing that too in that moment and saying, okay, like I get it. I don't have to do anything about this. I get it. The brain does this. I want to teach the guard dog. This is no longer a problem. So how do I want to go and spend some time building a relationship right now? Because I'm not going to spend it, you know, barking at the garbage can along with the guard dog. Chris said, any key advice in terms of dealing with mental compulsions? Something I still struggle with is how some of my intrusive thoughts come in as like a costume where it makes itself seem different this time. Yeah, the brain loves that. You're like, oh, this is different. And then you just end up doing the same compulsions. And we're like, oh, that wasn't different. So part of it is just recognizing like brains do that. So you already see that. And for me, it really helped to start looking at just time spent in my head, time spent on brain stuff. And it's not about whether it's new or likable or dislikable or intrusive or rational, whatever. It's about how we spend time in our heads. And so just putting the brain in that kind of that separate category of people who, I congratulate them for having opinions, but I do not base my actions on their opinions or engage with them because they just like to talk. And so I do that across the board though, right? So yeah, absolutely, the brain is going to come up with new stuff. It is going to come up with different stuff. It's so creative. I congratulate it. And what do I want to give my time and energy to? Yeah, because I know I don't want to spend time and energy up in my head. Erica, welcome. You said, I inherited a car from my uncle who died last fall. I was scared I'd always feel sad in the car because I'd think of his death. But now I love driving it and remembering him when I go on adventures. Yeah, that is great. Thank you for sharing that. It makes sense, right? We so often like worry about coming into contact with things that can be painful, but then it can really be an opportunity to celebrate and to love and to support yourself. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's great to hear. Erica continued saying, sometimes we're really bad at predicting our reactions to things. The only way to find out is to do the thing. Like finding out what it was like to drive my deceased uncle's car for a year. Yeah, it's great you brought up that prediction thing. Yeah, we are just so consistently. I notice this all the time. I would just be like, oh, like this is gonna be bad, or this is gonna be too much, or I won't be able to handle this. And then it's so much time is spent on just the fear of this idea that there's the possibility that I probably won't be able to handle something or it'll be bad, et cetera. And then we just go and do it. And so often the time and energy we spent being afraid and ruminating on how to control it, that was the more difficult experience. Silent Spaces said, I was sharing a human brain video with some people today. Thanks for sharing it. Said, can you give some examples from your life related to maybe the imbalances are in the world around you line? Yeah, sure. Well, there's tons of them. Like, for example, if somebody is experiencing discrimination, we like to be ourselves and have control over our lives. Like, we like to live our lives. And so if somebody is running into a system that consistently does not allow them to live their lives or is actually antagonistic and violent towards them living their life, of course they are going to be anxious in many ways. There's going to be the fear of something bad happening, but then also just we like living our lives. So if we can't, the brain then looks for all sorts of other things to control because it lacks control in this other area. So it's very common to then start doing all sorts of compulsions because we're just trying to get a sense of control in a world where that person doesn't have control. MC Dana said this is on the marijuana fear. You said to follow up, when I walk around or drive and I smell weed in the air, my brain goes, are you gonna get high? Is this it? Are you about to have the worst panic attack ever? You are doomed. So that's the exposure. Like you're already having it. And so there it's about wanting to handle panic attacks. So I see Erica asked below about like what's bad about having panic attacks. So often for anybody with panic attacks, if you remember, there used to be a wall of sticky notes behind many videos, and one of the notes people would often point out was the one that said "have panic attacks," and that's precisely because it doesn't matter if it's weed or whatever. The fear around panic attacks is like, oh no, what if I have a panic attack when I'm driving, when I'm doing something important, etc. And it's the fear of panic attacks. It's not about marijuana. It's, oh no, what if this thing I don't control makes me lose control, right? Just like I was just talking about there, we hate that. And so it's learning how to step into that, those fears around control. So yeah, there's probably a lot of other fears around control. So I would suggest expanding beyond marijuana. Marisol said, I've been noticing how I take someone's actions and comments very personal. Also, how my decisions can be influenced by that. How can we practice non-judgment? Well, so first with non-judgment, it can help to look at like, have you explored non-judgment in other situations that aren't about your actions being influenced? So it could really help to look there first, like non-judgment. There's the non-judgment workout plan on the toolkit site, the toolkitstore.com. You'll see it starts by just exploring how judgments happen in situations that aren't, about us being like influenced by anything, just about experiencing things, and then starting to look at changing things. So it might be interesting to go through something like that. Then it'll be about stepping into situations where you feel that pressure to do things a particular way. So one of the things to look at there is like, why do you feel that pressure? Like what makes you think, oh, I've got to change this, because what would happen? Because often there we see a fear, like we're trying to control a fear, like, oh, well, maybe I should do this because then that person will like me. They won't hate me. And then you start to see the thing to step into. So then it's like, oh, okay, next time I'm going to notice that pressure, and I'm going to tell my brain, actually, yeah, that person already hates me. They're never going to talk to me again. So look, I'm going to do this, and actually, not only are they going to hate me, but they're going to tell everybody. Like by me doing this thing I want to do right now, everybody's going to hate me. Yeah, this is the last time I ever get to spend any time with anybody, because no one is going to talk to me ever again. So I really want to enjoy this last time of being with people, since I'll be alone from tomorrow forever. Yeah. And then we do the things we want to do, right? Because as long as we're afraid of that like, I could make a decision and people will judge me and they'll abandon me, then the brain is just going to keep trying to protect us. Danish said, what about relapse? Making a judgment and having your brain be so trained to check and cope through living normally, and basically retraining your brain to do stuff you value rather than control stuff you fear about. Yeah, it can really help to see, like, exactly like you're describing there. You see the things you want to do. And so approaching it like a wilderness again, rather than seeing it as like, oh, I have like relapsed and this is a thing I need to fix. It's much more like, I was walking through the forest, and yeah, now I've like stepped off to the side of the path because I thought there would be something over here I wanted to see, but now, oh, I see it's not. I tricked myself. Or the brain tricked me. The brain was like, go, there's like treasure under that rock. And so I'm like flipping over rocks, and all I found is like a bunch of insects. I'm like, that's cool. So like, that's interesting. I can be curious about how that happened, how I told myself, oh, like go over there and there's going to be something I was trying to get, right? So I see that, I learn from that. But now I just go back and get right back on the path I want to be taking, and really just see, oh, like I learned something. It's so useful that I learned that, because now next time as I'm doing the things I actually want to do, when the brain goes, hey, I bet there's something under that rock over there. Go search under it. I'll give the brain a hug and I'll be like, you're right, brain. By me continuing on this path, I'm missing out on the biggest secret treasure ever. And I guess we'll never know what was under that rock. And then I keep on going. Villain said, sometimes it sounds a bit like a cliche to talk about continuing to do the things we like, even though we're full of intrusive thoughts and overheated. Yeah, I think, and I think it's often misunderstood. But in the same way that if somebody said like, oh, well, no, you just go to the gym and you lift heavy weights. Somebody who's not lifting weights is going to be like, well, I can't lift the weights though. So yeah, it could always initially seem like that. Oh, you're telling me to go lift heavy things. Well, I can lift the heavy things, and understand. Yeah, of course. If you're not lifting heavy things, then it makes no sense to lift heavy things. If we haven't learned how to swim, the idea of getting in a pool and swimming, we're like, well, but I don't know how to do that. So like, don't tell me to just like go get over drowning. And so yeah, it's useful to see like that's not what it's about. But yeah, of course, telling somebody to go and swim and learn how to swim sounds like saying get over drowning. Starman said, most of my issues were in relation to control or fear of not having it in many different ways. So drugs being one of those things that alters self-control. I can see the fear behind it. Moro, he said, I have to heavily limit personal text messages as all my work is through text. I ask my friends to email instead, but worry that is viewed as abnormal in this day and age. How to deal with possibly being judged over this request? And then Erica asked, why don't you want your friends to text you? MC Dano, oh, thank you for the donation. I appreciate the support and the questions today. Said, appreciate all the advice. Oh, you're awesome. Oh, thank you. You too. I've been struggling to overcome all this, but you have helped so much. Hey, I really appreciate it. Oh, thank you for the support. And yeah, always being part of our discussions. Amanda said, I have sensory motor OCD on blinking and swallowing, which gives me anxiety, and I do compulsions. I get intrusive thoughts about passing out. It's torture. Hey, I'm sorry to hear you're running into this right now. Yeah, do you have a question about that? Have you explored learning about how to cut out compulsions around physical sensations or other compulsions? Because yeah, what you're running into is really common, and there are a lot of effective ways to learn how to interact with those experiences differently. Yeah, so grabbing a good book, working with a skilled professional, all can be useful ways to start, making some changes. Tim said, I see that the fear of who my partner has slept with before leads to fear of not being good enough in comparison and therefore them leaving me. Do you accept it would be okay if they left? So, well, I find it more to look at, like, I would accept that I'd be in a lot of pain if they left. Because the brain is just saying, oh, like this would be bad and we would be hurt and it would feel terrible. And so it's actually that moment to pivot towards love, to be like, yeah, of course I would feel terrible about them leaving me because I like them. So what do I want to do right now that's about loving them and giving to them and giving to the relationship? So it's, right, again, the brain is that guard dog. The thing is, the guard dog only knows how to bark in intrusive thoughts and fears. So what we've got to do is hear the bark, be like, oh yeah, my brain is a dog. It may seem like I understand what it's saying, but actually it's a dog. Like I'm just tricking myself into thinking I understand it. We've got to like make this translation leap. Oh, it throws up a fear because I care about that thing. So what I actually want to do is not spend time on the fear, but spend time on the caring about that thing. And so that's sometimes a tricky pivot we've got to make, but it's actually being able to thank the brain. Like, oh yeah, brain, you're right. I do really care about this person. I do really care about this relationship. Of course I would hate to lose it. So what are we going to go and do right now to build the relationship? Like, I want to give my time and energy to that. Rocky Fighter, you said, what is fuel of valued action? Donuts. So Amanda, carrying on the sensory motor, said, how can I get over the fear? So actually, it can help to see that what gets us into the sensory motor compulsions is trying to get over the fear, that the getting over of the fear is the problem. That's the fuel. Like that's why we check things. That's why we control things. That's why we try to fix things. And so actually, I wouldn't see that as a helpful goal, because that's, in many ways, that is what fuels the compulsions. So instead, it's going to be looking about how having the fear, having the uncertainty, having the uncomfortable feeling, and not needing to get rid of it, not needing to check if it's there, not needing to fix it. I like to call the brain the problem-solving monster. And that's with sensory motor stuff, very much the brain's just going, hey, this is a problem, fix it. Hey, oh, this is a problem, be certain about it. And we've got to start to just have the problems. Oh, Dinesh, thank you. So Dinesh was sharing, I just wanted to say thanks for the stream, Mark. Oh, well, you're welcome. Thanks for coming. And thank you to every single person in this chat for doing the work needed to get fit mentally. It's not easy, but consistency pays, and compassion. Totally. It is that. Yeah, all of those things. It's not easy. It is something we got to be consistent with. But having that compassion, because yeah, we're dealing with really, really scary, difficult, sweaty stuff. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you for sharing that with everybody. S, you said how to go about dating and starting relationships when we are full of challenging emotions, fear, low self-esteem, but also apathy. Romantic relationships feel so based on feelings and emotions. Yeah, so part of it will be seeing, like what you mentioned at first, that is not a barrier. How to go about dating and starting relationships when we are full of challenging emotions. If you think you're full of challenging emotions now, just wait till you have a relationship. Being human, you're just a meat sack full of challenging emotions. There's like that's not a problem. That's a reality. That's like human brain physics. There's nothing wrong with that. And so but again, we get this idea that emotions are bad and we need to clean them away. We need to not have them or not feel them. What I find much more effective is wanting to feel all the emotions very deeply, and wanting to be curious about them. Like Leah was talking about curiosity before. A lot of that's curiosity about emotions. I want to know what it's like to feel afraid and to give in a relationship. In the past, I would always shut down and leave any relationship if any emotion was getting too much. A bad emotion, a good emotion, I was just like, whoop, gonna be overwhelming. I'm out of here. And it's been so useful to learn how to have emotions and feel them, and yet feel vulnerable. Again, because we're squishy humans. We're fleshy. We get cut and we hurt. We're fleshy in body and fleshy in spirit. And all of those can get cut. All of those can get hurt. And yeah, we can have that experience. Because you are not a rock. Yeah, Erica, thanks for sharing with Moro there. Those are, yeah, great insights to ask about the texting and the tips there. Chris, yes, it is. You said, is this a way that OCD tricks you? When I come across something on social media in terms of my theme, there's this intrusive thought or urge to check. And each time I buy into, my brain kind of goes, and then why did you check? Why did you notice that? And sometimes I wonder if there's a way, if it's OCD messing with me. Yeah, it's even one of the reasons I encourage people to like ditch themes completely, because it gets into this idea, oh, like, oh, this is about me, and like I'm attached to this theme. But yeah, there really are no themes. Like I I find it useful and to recognize that the whole categorizing OCD into themes, that makes sense because it's a compulsion. And so that desire to fit things into little boxes and then attach meaning to them, very, very much the pattern that fuels OCD and needing to get the right thing. And so, yeah, taking a step away from themes completely, because you can see how the brain then just uses it to push you around. Justin. So you mentioned I struggle with jealousy with my partner. I obsess with ideas of them talking to someone else behind my back and piece together non-evidence to fit my insecurities. How do I combat this? Yeah, so it's going to be about like not doing it. Like you see the compulsions you're doing, and then not doing that. Right? It's going to. So often we're looking for like a way to fix the uncertainty because we're like, oh well, if I get rid of the fear or the insecurity, then I won't do the compulsion. But that's backwards. Yeah, we cut out the compulsions. Like that the compulsions actually fuel the insecurity because the brain's just being logical. It's like, well, if you have to check on this stuff, then of course we must be logically uncertain about this. We don't have to get rid of the uncertainty. We get rid of the actions that are teaching the brain to be uncertain about it. So yeah, it'd be about like what actions do you want to practice in your relationship? What do you actually want to build? And then building that. Erica shared something that is going to be really useful for everybody this week. Being willing to be seen as weird or not normal is going to be helpful, whether you're emailing with friends or texting them. It's true. And in all sorts of other situations this week. S is going to get a new tattoo inspired by our stream today, and it's going to say, I'm fleshy in body and fleshy in spirit. Yeah, I look for, especially if you're going to get that somehow turned into an image. I wonder what kind of image it would be. La Bruja Medusa. Yeah, he said, why does it feel like your body is going to act against your will when panicking? I mean, this is, I don't know if you caught it earlier. We were talking about control and panic attacks. I find it is very much the fear. Like we want to be in control of ourselves. And then it's like the brain loves to use that as a thing we'll do a lot of compulsions around. Because yeah, we want to be ourselves. And so the thing that I found useful to explore there was like how do I sit in out of controlness, in that feeling of being out of control, and practice being myself. So actually making it okay to feel out of control. And so the image that helped me with this is I often describe it as driving a truck down a hill with no brakes, and the windshield is covered with mud and there's no door and I have no seatbelt and the steering is weird. And so my initial reaction would be like, oh, we got to stop this. Like we must have control. And it's about learning how to embrace that being out of control and saying, you know what? Yeah, this is out of control and I want to be the best at driving out of control trucks. And letting it feel, on one hand, out of control, but also shifting power back to me. I can have this feeling and I can take it in a direction I want to go. And I don't need to fix the feeling. But yeah, really part of it is that compassion. Understanding like we want to be in control of ourselves. And so the brain often then pushes us around by these feelings of us not being in control. And it makes sense that of course we react to that. So part of it's that compassion. Of course, we want to be in charge of our lives. Yeah. Oh, Nicole, was just saying, I love this community. Oh, thank you for being part of it. I do. It's so wonderful to sit down and spend time with you all. Like, it really is. Um, it's so enjoyable to connect with other people around the world. Just, yeah, period. It's so enjoyable to connect with other people around the world. But then, yeah, that we are sharing these experiences and working on this stuff that can seem weird, but it's really not weird. And we get to get together and just enjoy talking about it and enjoy talking about the things we want to be doing. Again, because yeah, we want to take our lives in the direction we want to take them. So it's so exciting to always be able to sit down with you all. So thank you. Starman said, themes are like TV channels. Once you get bored of that one, we begin to flick onto something until something else grabs our attention. Yeah, it's just seeing the, mental health, mental illness, whatever. It's just a streaming service. Brains are just a streaming service. And yeah, you might subscribe to one for a while. You can always cancel that subscription, get another. I don't think the metaphor carried through there. Ah, Labru, welcome. Thanks for joining today. Yeah, and I see you shared there. I'm practically homebound because of this fear of going crazy and losing control. Yeah, so really, really common. And so I find, yeah, at first, simple exercises I find useful are just identifying something I want to do, and I want to feel out of control while doing it, but making it easy, and then just gradually building it up. But it's that shift of like, okay, like yeah, I might feel out of control. I might be out of control here. How can I make space for that? And yeah, it'll feel like an extreme sport. And then part of it is starting to look at how do we start to make that just like somebody who goes from hating roller coasters to liking roller coasters. Like, how do they go? Of course, I don't want to be, of course, I don't want to fall out of the roller coaster. Of course, I don't want to vomit. Of course, I don't want something terrible to happen. And it feels like that. But they're having the exact same experience as somebody who likes it. And they're like, wow, this is amazing. It feels like I'm going to fall out and I'm going to lose control. Let's do it again. And so, how do we start to make that shift? But yeah, part of it is identifying, hey, what's it mean in this situation to be me? And that's going to be an action, not a feeling. So the brain can say, wow, you're going to be out of control. And I say, okay, I'm going to feel out of control. And I'm going to do this action that I choose to do that's about me being me. Because then we start to build up that understanding, hey, I can have out of control feelings and I can be me. And I don't have to change that feeling in order to practice being myself. Yeah. So, yeah, lots of compassion to you as you're practicing being yourself, right? With difficult feelings. Yeah. Leah, yeah, I said, as someone who once struggled a lot with emotions being too much in a relationship, it helped me to realize that the problem wasn't too many emotions. It was just how I was reacting to them. Sometimes those reactions meant hurting my partner or myself, and that reactive harm was the problem. So I worked on noticing and reacting in new, less harmful ways. Yeah, it's so understandable, right? Like, we have this emotion and we're just like, whoop, this is bad. And then we react in a way that we learned. Uh, for, we may have just come up with it. Someone may have taught us. We learned at school, friends, whatever. And yeah, now we get to see, okay, yeah, like those reactions, they were doing things that weren't useful to me. And so that's great. We can see that. Right? It's that curiosity, like, oh yeah, that didn't take me in a direction I want to go. And then we learn new ways of interacting with them. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Leah. Umesh, oh, thanks for joining us. I'm glad you're taking steps towards handling things. Yeah, it's a journey and there's no way to work at it except for doing it and learning as you go. Exactly. We can't know the path through the forest without going into the forest. Jorpanzer said, longtime follower. Oh, thank you. He said, oh, I donate, but Google won't let me. Oh, I'm sorry, Google won't let you. I appreciate the thought. He said, well, with friends or after seeing friends, I constantly obsess about the possibility that they're annoyed with me, that I'm unfunny, that I'm boring, etc. Obviously, this is unprovable. So I guess just sit with the anxiety. It could be about sitting with the anxiety, but there's probably a lot of compulsions going on, right? Like that like all of that checking, replaying, like wanting to be sure that people like you. And so one of the things we often look at with this, I like to call it like two sides of a cookie. So on one hand, if somebody said something bad about us, we'd be like, okay, I learn how to not attach my meaning in life to what that person said. Learn how to not attach my love for myself and my self-esteem, etc. But we've also got to learn how to do that with things people say that we like, or things that we say as like meaning we are good or worthy or funny, etc. Because if we believe our critics when they say we're right, we have to believe them when they say we're wrong. And so often we set up this logic for ourselves that's really difficult because we're like, oh, like I did this, so I'm good. And this person said I was super funny. And oh, I like thinking about that time. And oh, there was this time I was good. And this person invited me out. So that must mean something about me. And we build up this logic of these things we like. But that just means to the brain, oh no, if somebody doesn't say they like me, then I must not be worthy. And oh, if they don't invite me out, then oh, I must be terrible, and so on. They're two sides of the same cookie. So it really helps to make a shift that I describe as the shift from getting to giving. So I'm not trying to get reassurance. I'm not trying to get that and get things from people when we hang out. It's about what I want to give, what I want to express. And then afterwards, it's about saying, okay, did I give the things I wanted to give when I was hanging out with my friends? And I did. Okay, then that was successful because that's what I wanted to do. And that's how I be myself. Yeah, and so the goals. So I see Erica explained below. So Erica says, it helped me a lot to change my goals around spending time with friends. I made my goal to just hang out with them, listen to them, etc., not to make them like me. I don't control that. Oh, and yeah, so Joy, yeah, you see the compulsions there. You said, I asked them if I was boring, unfunny, and or check our text messages. Yeah, those kinds of compulsions. It's weird, but I found this is the hardest compulsion to sit with, even worse than stereotypical harm compulsions. Obviously, I guess I just value my relationship a lot. So actually, great point on themes, and we'll wrap up here in a second, everyone. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining us. We're just coming up on 2 hours here. So harm theme compulsions. So you mentioned there, oh, like I find this more difficult than harm, but it could really help to see it's because this is what the harm obsessions were about. So often, again, this is one of the reasons why themes are not helpful, because people say like, oh, I struggle with harm, intrusive images or something like that, or like fear, etc. But so often what people are actually dealing with around harm, intrusive thoughts, is the fear like I did something horrible and everybody else will hate me. So often it's actually about social anxiety. Like if I did this terrible thing, my friends would abandon me. And so what you're actually getting at with the social stuff, like there's no reason it would be easier than the harm stuff. It would be harder because now you're actually going after what the harm fears were really about, like the much more fundamental underlying fear, which is just, oh no, people could judge me. People could dislike me. I could be alone. And so, yeah, like this, yeah, one of the reasons why it's not useful to get caught up in themes, because people are also usually wrong about what the theme is really about, or they see it like they'll see harm as like a bad like topic theme when it's actually about social anxiety. So there's that. Naomi, oh, thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, Naomi was just best wishes to you and all here as you continue your journeys. Yeah, Naomi, thank you so much for joining us and sharing that. And that's a great note to end it on. So yeah, to everybody, we're all doing, difficult things with our fleshy souls that are vulnerable and can experience pain. So let's be kind to ourselves and embrace those feelings as we be ourselves. Yeah, because we really like doing that. All right, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who donated today. Thank you everybody for being here and supporting this community and supporting each other, sharing like really useful insights from your journeys. It's so valuable for people just starting out their journeys to interact with people who have been through those difficult ups and downs. And Narina is checking back in. Remember at the start was procrastinating on an activity. Narina's told us, and we were all going to watch them do it, has completed the task they were procrastinating on. Great job. All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, if you want a link to the Mental Fitness Discord server, just send me a DM or email or anything on social media, and I'll get you connected up with the community. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.